Across family offices and institutional portfolios, the introduction of digital assets created a familiar but uncomfortable challenge. A new category of assets that behave like cash in settlement terms but do not integrate cleanly into traditional custody, governance, or control frameworks. In most institutional environments, this creates an immediate question: how do we apply existing standards of custody, authorization, and continuity to an asset class that was not originally designed with those frameworks? The most common answer is a multi-signature architecture. From a technical standpoint, it is very strong. It distributes key control, reduces single points of failure, and enforces cryptographic authorization directly at the protocol level. On paper, it appears fully aligned with security standards, but in practice, something important gets missed. Multi signature is a security configuration, not a complete governance system. Inside of institutional environments, those are two fundamentally different categories. Security prevents unauthorized access. Governance ensures authorized access remains possible under real world conditions, across time, through personnel changes, and during periods of operational stress. When those are in question, what gets built is a system that is secure in design but not always reliable for execution. Every institutional asset requires a control framework, documentation, mandates, custodial agreements, and defined recovery procedures. In multi signature systems, there is a parallel dependency that is almost always under institutionalized: the wallet architecture and configuration layer. This includes key structure and ordering, derivation paths, script configuration, and the original construction parameters of the vault. This is effectively the system's control blueprint. The risk is not that the blueprint does not exist. The risk is how it is typically governed. In many implementations, it is not standardized, it is not independently governed, it's not version controlled with institutional documentation, it's not integrated into estate or succession planning, and it's not treated as a formal systemized asset. This creates a structural gap because even when all the physical keys are present, the system and the assets may not be reconstructible without the integrity of that original architecture. In a family office environment, this does not present itself as a technical failure. It presents as a continuity failure at the exact moment that continuity matters most: during succession, incapacity, or emergency liquidity events. Multi signature assumes coordinated execution among designated stakeholders, but institutional reality is not theoretical coordination, it is human behavior under uncertainty. In real transition scenarios, execution rarely occurs under stable conditions. Successors are operating under many different constraints simultaneously: uncertainty, liability sensitivity, emotional pressure, and procedural caution. What emerges is not a lack of intent, it is a breakdown in execution variables. A system requiring multiple approvals can stall, not because access is unavailable, but because no single party is willing to assume the execution risk without complete clarity across the system. This creates what institutional environments recognize as execution friction under asymmetric risk. And in liquidity or continuity scenarios, delay is not neutral. Delay is a form of failure because a system is only effective if it can be executed at the moment it is required, not after the consensus stabilizes. Institutional systems are never deployed without validation. They undergo stress testing, recovery simulation, and periodic control reviews to confirm operational integrity. Yet, in digital asset custody environments, a consistent pattern has emerged. Systems are configured once, secured, and then left untested for extended periods. And as a result, most organizations never validate whether fiduciaries can execute under real-world conditions, whether documentation still matches the underlying cryptographic reality, or whether the system or recovery behaves as designed during an actual transition event. From a governance perspective, this is not a minor oversight. This reflects an operational readiness deficiency. And in institutional risk frameworks, an untested system is not a validated infrastructure. It is an assumption of performance, not tangible proof. Multisignature provides a strong cryptographic foundation, but family offices and institutional portfolios do not operate on cryptography alone. They operate on governance systems, continuity planning, fiduciary coordination, operational control environments, and generational transfer structures, which leads to the central issue. Most multi-signature implementations are just security systems without a full governance layer. The question is not whether the assets are protected. The real question is our system operationally reliable under real-world conditions of time, transition, and institutional change? Because inside institutional environments, a system that cannot reliably be executed is not considered complete, regardless of how secure it appears in isolated conditions. Multi-signature solves a security problem, but ultra-high net worth families and institutional allocators are not only solving for security, they are also solving for continuity, governance integrity, and execution across generations. And in that context, security without operational governance is not a finished system. It is an incomplete one. I'm Kaleb Hamill, and to properly evaluate your digital asset control environment and determine whether your custody architecture meets the standards of governance, continuity, and operational readiness, visit sovereignvaultadvisory.com.